The death of the guitar store. Has it been exaggerated? Maybe not. With more manufacturers selling direct, it's a possibility. We're going to talk about it today, so stick around. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name is Chris McKee.
And I'm Cooper Greenberg.
We're here with Alamo Music Center in San Antonio, Texas, and you can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and like our videos. And if you want to support the channel, visit our spring store link below for custom swag and check out our podcast, the Fretboard Confessional, wherever you get your podcasts at. So we're going to be talking about the demise of your local music store. And it has actually been happening. We've seen it over the years, many of our local competitors having to close up shop, largely as a result typically of the pressure from big box retailer stores like Guitar Center and Sweetwater, Sam Ash, things like that. But now there is a new pressure that is coming on local music stores, and that is from the manufacturers themselves selling direct. So the two guitars that we are holding are now coming from guitar companies that both sell direct. Fender started doing it years ago. Taylor just recently announced that they are going to be doing it, which I was not shocked or surprised at all. And not because I had inside knowledge, but because it kind of seemed inevitable to me. And so I want to talk about that today.
Yeah. Other big names do it as well.
Gibson sells direct. Ernie Ball Music Man sells direct, I think, last time I looked. Yamaha is selling direct.
So you can buy directly from them or you can buy from a dealer. Some brands have gone so far as to you cannot buy from a dealer anymore. Namely, last year was Chase Bliss pedals. Behringer, which includes TC Electronic, you know, a bunch of things under that umbrella.
That one really ticked me off, mostly because we did a lot of content on our Sound Lab channel with Behringer synth stuff, and you know we were carrying some TC Electronic stuff in our store, and so to cut to the chase, I will express in this video that I don't have a huge problem with manufacturers selling direct, and I'll explain why. I do have a big problem with manufacturers selling direct and then cutting out dealers from the process. This is a self-serving video. There was a similar video kind of like this that Casino Guitars did, and I don't want to restate their stuff. I think they did a great job. They talk about the 10 reasons you should buy from a dealer instead of a manufacturer. I agree with their points, and you should check out that video. They do a great job. Shout out to them, even though you didn't give us a shout out. Anyways, those guys. So, so they did a good job talking about that. But as they said, this is self-serving as we talk about this. But the problem I have with what Behringer did is I don't think it serves the consumer very well. It relies upon you doing research and reaching out to a company and finding everything out about online and then only being able to get those things from that company, which are self-serving in their own right, to deliver a certain message. There is a clearly biased marketing message from a company when they're telling you to buy their own products. It's very different when the marketing message is coming from a dealer where we're saying, hey, yes, you should buy this for this reasons, or you shouldn't buy this for these reasons. It's a very different thing, I think. So,
have you had any experience or gone down the road of attempting to purchase? I mean, obviously you would have no need to because you work here, but go to Fender.com, Taylor.com, anywhere like that. Have you looked into the process and what it's like from a consumer standpoint? Yeah,
mostly with Fender. I mean, they've been doing it the longest, and I will say when they first announced this, everybody was pretty ticked off. And I was one of those people. I was rather upset. Many years later, it hasn't mattered much. There was an issue that Taylor or Fender found themselves in a bind because of what happened in the pandemic, and I think the pandemic has largely been the reason that a lot of manufacturers have maybe accelerated their plans to offer things direct. And I think there's a distinction between having a dealer network and offering things directly versus selling directly without a dealer network.
Yeah.
But I haven't had a problem with what Fender's been doing. I was concerned of how it would affect our sales when it didn't affect our sales. I was fine with it. When they started offering discounts on their website because of the issues post-pandemic that they were dealing with, I had a problem with that. And so here's what I will say distinctly, and I hope manufacturers are listening to this. If you are an ally to your dealer network and you say so, then act like it. And if you aren't going to act like it, then you aren't an ally no matter how many times you say so. And so I think manufacturers are navigating this themselves for the first time, maybe, in this kind of environment. And I think it's important for them to understand, for their dealers and also how the public perceives things, you need to say, like, they need to be the ones saying, hey, here are top 10 reasons you should buy this at a dealer.
Yeah.
And they've done some things, Fender does, Taylor's doing it, where if you want to try to find a guitar locally, they have tools on their website to help you do so that they can steer you to the local dealer. So that's beneficial. Taylor's done something recently where if you want wood and steel, you can go on their website and get it, or you can go to their local dealer. They're not mailing it anymore. So that's, again, beneficial to the local dealer. And there's lots of benefits. We're both here holding custom guitars that if you want something like this, you're going to be working with a dealer.
Yeah. Being in the store and coming into contact with many people that might be watching this, you have done the same thing. There are people all over the country that, thankfully, they watch our videos. Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like we have a good time and we've made a lot of friends all over the country. And if somebody chooses to work with us, if they choose to go to Music Villa, or, wherever they get their information, educational content, they like what they're doing. When you talk to somebody at that store, a lot of times people that watch the videos, they sometimes talk to us, they sometimes get somebody else that works here on the phone. No matter what, you ask about a guitar, you see a picture on our website, people want to see more photos. They want to see videos of it, they want to hear it, they want you to look over it, make sure that everything's all good because they're not able to be there in the store. Mm-hmm. My question is, in the future, are there going to be representatives of Fender.com pulling one from the warehouse, unboxing it, sending photos of the grain pattern?
No.
It's...
No, and here's the thing, and this is my opinion, but I've kind of thought about this from a historical standpoint. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're doing it, I don't think they're getting into it to do that.
Yeah.
I don't think manufacturers are getting into selling direct in order to replace dealers. I think, thinking about how Taylor's done this, and they've come to it later than some others and earlier than some others. I think the pandemic really accelerated things. If you're a manufacturer of an item and suddenly, without any control of them or yourself, a dealer has to close their doors because of a pandemic, what are you supposed to do? Yeah. You still have to sell your stuff. You still have to find places for it. You still have to manage inventory. And so I think those challenges presented a need for having some kind of an outlet. So I think that's part of it. But if you go back further, think about this. Every single guitar manufacturer initially started selling direct. Yeah. When Taylor started, and it was a small group of, hippie guys, in California in the 70s, they were selling their guitars direct. Before it was Taylor, it was American Dream. They were selling their guitars direct. When it was Christian Frederick Martin, he was selling his guitars direct. And then at some point, each one of these manufacturers, to grow their business, needed a distribution arm. And the way to do that at the time was that you had dealers that you entered into agreement with, and those dealers carried your product, and they educated customers about them. They handled all of your marketing for you. And that's how you got your guitars into people's hands. And I will say this too, Taylor for the longest time was really behind the curve. So when a lot of the internet stuff started, there were dealers, you were not allowed to list your stuff for sale. You were not allowed to have pricing online. Taylor was like kind of late to the game in even allowing that to happen.
That Rickenbacker strategy.
Yeah, for real. But so that was historically how manufacturing, would go from selling direct to having a dealer base. Yeah. And there's a lot of boutique shops that had it both ways. sold through dealers, and sold direct. A lot of boutique, like luthiers and small electric shops, things like that. Now, if you take that business model and you translate it into 2023, now you could start selling direct and maybe never move to a dealer network, right? Yeah. You could just forever sell your product directly online. You look at upstarts like Orangewood.
Yeah.
So they're selling their guitars. It's very different from like a Taylor guitar. It's a very different product base. But affordable acoustic guitars. They're manufactured overseas. They've started the company. They're doing their marketing. They're doing direct to consumer.
Yeah.
And we've reviewed their guitars before, and I've talked about there are some challenges to that, because to your point, and this is what you were just asking, we are going to send you photos. We are going to do custom videos for you. We do this type of marketing. We are going to offer deals and bundles and financing and layaway and all of these things that a manufacturer is not going to do, most likely. And I think I look at it this way. It's like it's an entirely different muscle than building a guitar.
Yeah.
Being a dealer is an entirely different thing.
Yeah. You wouldn't want Chris and I in the shop building your D45. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, we're gonna come up with our own guitar company and sell direct. No, I'm just kidding.
That's our guitars. So
it's gonna be called CNC Music Factory.
Yeah.
Gonna make you sweat till you
That's
bleed.
what I'm talking about.
Copyright infringement.
I'm talking rhetorical question.
Sure.
For the people that are watching. NAMM show's coming up. Mm-hmm. Let's say brand X has an amazing new guitar, and we all know, since it's still supply chain issues, it's going to be hard to get. Where does brandx.com fall in the queue for getting this guitar in stock?
That's a great question. And that goes back to what I was saying before. I think if a manufacturer is selling direct in order to help manage their inventory, that's one thing. When a manufacturer is selling direct to directly compete against their dealers with an unfair advantage, that's an entirely different thing. That, not to me, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds here, but I think not only poses some anti-competitive practices and butts up against some regulatory issues and laws, but also just leaves a sour taste in the mouths of the dealers and the general public. I think a lot of guitar guys. Here's the problem: if you are a guitar player, you typically don't treat a guitar like a commodity. It's not an iPhone, right?
Yeah.
And we know this. Every single one's different. Josh and I were talking about this before we were filming earlier, that you can have a bunch of Telecasters that are all the exact same model with all the exact same specs, and they're all going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
And the downside of buying directly from a manufacturer is they're going to tell you they're all exactly the same. Here's blue number 75,000.
Yeah.
It's just like blue number 2. And as a dealer, we know that's not true.
Yeah.
There are manufacturers that are more consistent and manufacturers that are less consistent, but none of them are really the same because they're made of wood.
Yeah.
So there is a guy, Rob McGargle. He is like head of service at Taylor. Mm-hmm. And he said one of the things to me that was refreshing and kind of eye-opening. We were doing a service special thing in one of our stores, and there was a guy who was complaining about, he'd spent so much on a guitar and it had been perfect, and now he's having issues with it. And Rob made some adjustments and fixed it up. And the guy maybe naively was like, well, shouldn't it just always stay perfect? And he's like, dude, it's made of wood.
Yeah. It's
wood and steel. Things are going to happen. That's why you have a warranty. That's why we fix stuff. And so, I think if we're going to be honest about these things, there's a very valid reason, as I said, Casino articulated, to buy a guitar from a dealer. But the question still remains, with the largesse of marketing dollars that some of these companies have, and the fact that more and more people are buying out of convenience rather than experience, does it threaten the local music store? What do you think?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it does, depending upon the buying public that we're talking about today. But I also think that this unfairly affects the music stores that maybe didn't see it coming. And I'm talking about your smaller shops that have one location and stock as much as they can and offer lessons and are staffed with guys who all play guitar, which, by the way, a lot of these guitar companies, a lot of the people don't play guitar. It's a weird thing. Usually the sales staff do, but not even in that particular case. Anyways, I digress. Those shops who maybe don't have a rich experience on their website, mainly sell online through Reverb or don't sell online at all, they're the ones that are most threatened by this paradigm shift. And I feel for them. I encourage them to learn. There's like that line in Moneyball, you adapt or die. I don't want them to have to do this, but you kind of have to do this. And I don't want small shops disappearing.
Yeah.
But I will say, just publicly, there's a conversation Zach and I had years ago. This is going to be a thing. Yeah. And so a dealer has to offer more value to a manufacturer than simply shelf space.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
so we do what we do.
I would, ideally, somebody comes into our store and they want to buy a guitar from us. And this is no slight to Fender in any way. I would much rather say, I don't have one of those. There's a shop about 15 minutes down the road. You should go check them out. They're nice guys because, one, we're part of the same community. But even Music Villa, Casino Guitars, I would so much rather hear somebody said, you guys didn't have this. I had a great experience with these guys over there.
Yeah.
Because I feel so related to everybody else that does what we do. We all go through the same ebbs and flows, and we all kind of know how these dealers work, the vendors. But I would have a really hard time saying, well, I know a shop 15 minutes away has it, but you should just go to Fender.com and get it from them.
Or Sweetwater. I honestly think the bigger threat to the smaller local music store is still the threat that has been shutting down smaller local music stores, and that is the music dealers that are owned by international investment groups and not by I almost said not by people. Sometimes it feels that way. But I mean, Guitar Center is owned by an investment group. Sweetwater is now owned by an investment group. There's literally billions of dollars leveraging these companies. And Sweetwater does a good job. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. I think in a lot of ways they're a model to how you can be remote and offer a good experience from a customer service standpoint. But they are now owned by an investment group, and we've seen, and I was in a small music shop and witnessed this firsthand. We've had it in our store a few times where people were auditioning. They came in and they played a model they were looking at and then bought it from Sweetwater. I actually saw a guy on his phone buy the guitar he was playing in the store on Sweetwater, while the very helpful people were talking and educating to him and offering the same financing, and I don't get it. Yeah. Because that person believed that the guitar they were playing was the exact guitar that they were going to get in the mail, and it's not.
And you know what? If it comes down to the candy, if you want Laffy Taffy, if you want Tootsie Rolls,
some
fine.
Sweet Tarts.
Yeah, I'll go down the street right now. I'll get you whatever you want. King-size candy bars.
But, if you took some of the names you mentioned, us and Music Villa, and, Casino Guitars and Empire Music, and, Wildwood, and, all of us pale in comparison to Guitar Center. And I don't know a single person that says that they have a better experience at most Guitar Centers than us, or Tone Shop, and
we got the same regular slinkies
Danny
that they
Dean's
have.
Guitar Hacienda. Don't you want to buy a guitar at a place called the Guitar Hacienda? But
yes.
So all of that to say, I think the direct thing is a threat. I don't think it's as big a threat as Guitar Center, Sweetwater. We haven't seen our Fender sales have actually increased over the period of time that Fender has sold directly. Mm-hmm. Not because Fender sells directly, because of our efforts. But I'm saying we haven't suffered greatly. But Fender could decide, we're just going to not deal with dealers anymore. I think that would be terrible for their business.
It would be. Yeah.
I think dealers are very, very important. And I have this feeling, I cannot quantify it in any way, and we'll wrap it up here, but you ever get this feeling like there's a wind of change on the horizon? Mm-hmm.
Scorpions.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite songs. I feel like there's been so many kind of like different social movements happening in our world with young people and different generations, and I feel like there is kind of this collective fed upness with giant corporations.
With the man.
And I'll give you a great example where like I think regional companies can excel and shine. In Texas, we have a great grocery store called H-E-B. H-E-B's the bomb, okay? And if you read up anything about H-E-B, one of the things you'll find is H-E-B's the only regional grocer that has had Walmart come into their market and they have outgrown Walmart. Most people shop at H-E-B around here. They love H-E-B. They will like die holding their H-E-B tortillas in their hands versus Walmart by and large. And I think and I hope with music stores and other types of retail in general, people return back to like shopping at their local hardware store, shopping at their local music store. I made this comment to someone like, I wear Levi's jeans, I don't buy them from Levi's.
You're a Dillard's man.
Not a Dillard's man either. But it's that to the point. Like I feel like there's going to be a rebellion against this kind of faceless corporate online type of sale back to I want to deal with the person that's in front of me and support my local economy and have an experience that's better than point and click and add to cart. At least I hope.
Yeah, I would say that choosing an independent dealer, it is, yes, an investment in the local community. It's also an investment in exactly what we always do, education, meeting people, learning things about guitar construction, also about playing guitar, enjoying things. It's way more of an interactive experience. So be forewarned, if you come to us and you say, I'm looking for this guitar, and we don't have it, maybe it's a brand that we don't carry, or we're out of stock and we're not gonna see one for 6 months, I will point you in the direction of another independent dealer. I would recommend go to any of the shops that we've mentioned, get to know those guys, because luckily we know those guys. I mean, we get to hang out with them at the events where Fender tells us they're going direct, and we can all complain about it, and it's great.
I will add one more thing to it that I just had a thought of. I always think that there's opportunity in stuff like this.
Yeah.
If a manufacturer wanted to go to dealers and say, hey, I promise you we will never sell direct and constantly support you, guess what's going to happen is when you walk into a guitar shop, they're probably going to show you that guitar over others. So that's kind of a warning to some companies that might think, well, we're fine and nothing could like really mess this up for it's guitar or just music communities hold a lot of sway when it comes to opinion. Just read the comments on social media about whether or not tone wood's better, and you might get a taste for how much tied in the guitar community is. And so that was just a thought I had. Like you could come in and go, it could be a great opportunity for some smaller brands, honestly, to say, you know what, we build fantastic stuff. We're never going to sell direct, and we're going to support you, with all of this stuff. Yeah, could see what happens. So, anyways, just my opinion.
And I mean, I'll throw this one out there. If you're watching a video that's coming from the brand that made the product.
Oh, well, yeah, it's kind of,
take it with a grain of salt. We never would, but we could compare a custom shop Telecaster to a custom shop Grand Auditorium if we wanted. There's not a ton in common here. They got 6 strings. But we can give you an unbiased opinion on that because we're not making them, so it's not like we have
we see it all the time.
Yeah.
Someone come in to buy a Martin, they buy a Taylor. Someone come in to buy a Taylor, they buy a Martin or a Gibson or a Ferk or something like that. That's the benefit of being able to experience different brands. I will say this. We have been around for over 90 years. We have seen a lot of changes. Alamo Music's not going anywhere, but some beloved local music stores might.
So take the 5 extra minutes to go drive to that shop to get your string re-up and get your setup and plan on your next guitar from there. Even though you might have a GC that's much closer to you, it's worth it. Go meet those guys. They're probably cooler.
And let us know your opinion in the comments below. Do you have a local music store that you love? Do you have a non-local music store that you love, like us or someone else, that you find is hugely beneficial? Or have you said, no, I'm going to be all about experience and Amazon's my guy? I'm curious across the board what your experience has been with those fake Elixir strings that you bought on Amazon. And just what your experience is in general on this topic. So opinions matter. I've got tons of them. Let us know yours. And if you're new to the channel, you know what to do. You should subscribe, hit that thumbs up. If you hit that thumbs down, we don't care, neither does YouTube. And keep coming back for more.